Hi guys, I'm back with another race review, and this week we'll be looking at the Bucks County Classic. This was the Echelon Racing League Amateur Series event held at the weekend, and it's the Invitational Series coming up tomorrow. So this was quite a strong field. It's a 2.2 kilometre lap, and there's about 20 metres, a little bit more maybe, of climbing on each lap, and there was 20 laps in total. And yeah, like I say, a strong field. We had quite a lot of the invitational guys. They come in the week before, they want to get a preview of the lap, get their head in, see what it's doing in terms of corners and elevation, so that they're well prepared for the event the following week. So as always, a little bit of a strong start. We had a couple of right-handers, left-hander, right-hander. It's all downhill pretty much on the first half of the lap. You can see there's a good bunch got away together, 34 guys in this front bunch, all moving around, getting the draft, good speed towards this bottom corner, which is pretty much the lowest point, and then we turn right, and then we start climbing back up towards the start-finish line. That was Griffin off the front there. He was quite aggressive throughout the race, but generally people just sitting in, making the most of the draft, just getting a feel for this course in the first lap. But it was a very challenging circuit, not so much because of the corners or technical nature of it, but because of the way it was downhill and then uphill, and it was pretty solid effort. It's not that steep, 3-4%, but it's pretty consistent. So you had about a 3-minute lap, just a little bit over each time, and it was essentially 90 seconds downhill, 90 seconds uphill. So it was a very on and off effort. Saw Yaden Jaeger there making a little bit of a dart off the front. It was quite aggressive at the start, and just speed up these early laps. It was fairly consistent, people attacking off the front, pushing that pace, especially up that start finish line. A couple of people getting dropped on each lap, the sort of progressive nature of e-racing, people falling off the back. I'll just slow it down here because I just wanted to talk about positioning. So as you can see here, I'm coming down the outside of that corner. I'm caught at the back then as we start the uphill, still on the outside for this next corner. So I then managed to get forward a little bit, get towards the front of the bunch. Again, a few attacks up there. Matt Osborne was always quite aggressive out of that corner. But you can see how your position from one corner can impact your position on the next corner. And even up to this corner, luckily I was down back towards the front, in that sort of front 5 or 6, able to get a good position around that corner, stayed in that position around this next corner onto that start finish line. And that's really important as you go through the event, is knowing your position on the road and how that can impact on subsequent corners. And it's possible, using the power, easing off, pushing on at the right time, that can adjust the position of your avatar to move left or right on the road. And then as you go into the corners, it can try and you can just about feather it to sort of find a better line. It's not always that easy. Sometimes you'll get caught out, and there's a couple of instances coming up where I was caught out. Again, there you see a couple of guys going off the front, pushing that pace. It was quite a strong effort. So here you see I just sort of get caught out a little bit. Everyone surges up the inside, and I'm having to put in a big effort to try and maintain contact. You can see how the guys behind there all lit up in red numbers, whereas the front was in white, as we're all pushing to try and get back on there. So I've had to make a big effort, burn a match to get back into that bunch. And now I'm at the front, I can ease up a little bit. But that's because as I came into that corner, I was at the front and everybody else had the draft and darted down the inside of me. And you see now this is the following lap. The opposite happens. I'm at the back. I get that draft, I put a little bit of power on, and I get the speed, and I cut up the inside, and I'm at the front and I'm comfortably through. So it's all about timing of when you put that power on when you come into the corners. Allowed me then on that following corner to be at the front, and then I can relax coming down that hill to the bottom corner. And here I've got good position all the way through now, keeping that power on a little bit at the front allows me to maintain that position. So yeah, it was quite a I say on and off effort, but you've got to be switched on all the time, watching those corners, because people do push out of them, and if you're at the back, then you can feel like here, you can see I've got a bad line, I'm right on the outside, a lot of numbers up the inside there, and suddenly now I'm having to put in big numbers to try and get back on. The front is surging, I'm 30 metres behind, having to work hard through those, and then it continues to rise uphill for another few hundred metres. You can see how it's really strung out there, that pace is being pushed at the front. And sometimes if you see yourself on the outside of a corner, you can anticipate that. You know you're going to be losing a few metres from the guys in front of you. Get ready to hit that power. As soon as you're halfway around that corner, get the power on, and then that will allow you to close that gap nice and quickly. It's a little bit of an effort, but that's just an unfortunate bit of where the positioning is on the road. But if you're not anticipating, then that can quickly become a 5 metre gap, and that's quickly 10, 15, 20, and that's where you find yourself off the back, and then your race is done because you've lost the pack and you've got no chance of getting back in. So as this lap, following lap, I'm nicely far forward, look at me right on the front. Don't get the draft there, but it means you do not have to worry so much about falling off the back. There we are, just speeding through. So it was a 20 lap race. Osborne again there off the front, very aggressive rider, always pushing. I was quite content to try and get a little bit of draft, sitting the wheels up that hill. And it was just pretty much a slugfest the whole way around. A few people attacking each lap off the front, pushing that pace up that hill. You see it's quite a long start-finish line as well. So I was trying to think about that for the finish, if I had any energy left at the finish. You don't want to go too early. It's a 3% uphill. That's going to mean it's going to be slow speed. You're not going to get a huge burst of acceleration. You're not going to be up at 60, 70 kilometers an hour. If you've got a 15-second sprint on a downhill, that's going to carry you 300-400 meters, but on an uphill it's only 200 meters, and if you go too soon you're just going to fade. So I kept going through this middle pace, started to settle in a little bit, you find that rhythm, on and off, easy, then hard again up this back end of the course. Trying to get draft when I could, a few times on the front, partly just marshalling the pace. At this point we had Jamrizik and Osborne off the front for a few laps. They had about 3 or 4 laps off the front. They got up to about 100 metres off the front. But then here you see Griffin there had the inside line off that corner, and he put in a big attack, big effort to try and bridge that gap. No one really pushing to go with him. I think at that point Osborne just had a slight gap over Jamrizik, and Griffin came right across, straight through, straight onto the front, and he pushed through 20 metres in front of Osborne. Now I wonder if he went just a little bit too hard, and we're on lap 16 going into 17, so only 9 kilometres to go. If those three had maybe just worked together, there's a chance that they could have stayed away, but it felt like Griffin maybe just went a little bit too hard, zoomed past, and then the other guys didn't quite have the jump at that point to catch up with him. So it all sort of came back together for the final few laps. Although a couple of guys, you'll see in a second, did try to make a bit of an effort to get away on this penultimate lap. We're now starting lap 19. Yeah, Jaeger and Blackburn from Restart Racing. They get a little bit of a gap off the front. All comes back together. Then Osborne goes, Jaeger gets across to him, and they pull out a 30-40 metre gap. And at this point you're going into the last lap. You're thinking, have they got a chance here? Are people going to work together to try and pull them back? But you can see there the Echelon guys, Heinlein on the front there. He's putting in good numbers, pulling the pack with him. So even though those front two of Osborne and Jaeger are putting in 5-6 watts a kilo, if you come around this corner you see Heinlein's up above 5, 6, 7 watts a kilo, and he's pulling everybody with him, which is great for the rest of us. We can just sit in. Those Restart Racing guys in the pack, they're not going to help. They've got a teammate up the road. But just as we hit the bottom of this climb, you can see that I've not got great position. I'm on the outside, but I'll put in a nice little effort, brings me towards the front of the pack, and we're closing now on those front two. I've got a bit of momentum around that corner. I know these two guys are strong, so I put in an effort, try and bridge that gap the final 10 metres, knowing that if I can get across and maybe just sit on their wheels, I can get a little bit of a draft effect off them. If I maybe just overcook it a little bit, I'm going to play this last little section at real-time speed. So I just come through, the rest of the pack come with me, but I've still got good position. I'm still on the front of this group, still in the first few wheels, coming up to this corner. I'm just feathering the power a little bit, get that inside line around that corner. I'm in the, again, third wheel there, good positioning. Not going too hard at this point, just managing that effort. I've got good positioning. Nice line around this second corner, and then onto that straight. So third wheel around there, nice and far forward. At this point, people are starting to think about pushing. 300 to go. Dowd launches a really big attack. No one really jumps on his wheel at that point. Maybe everyone else is the same as me, thinking it's a little bit too far, uphill finish. And then 150 to go. Look, you can see everyone jumping now. They've just come past me. And then that's when I hit it. Use that draft from them, come around the outside, and just grab Melville on the line to grab a third place. So I was pretty happy with that result overall. Strong field. Felt like I timed my sprint nicely. I wasn't quite sure I was going to pip for Melville there. It was another good sprint by him. But yeah, that was a deceptively long finish straight because of that uphill. But Dowd managed to get away. He went really early, no one went with him, and he managed to hold on. So that was a strong effort by him. And Osborne as well, who'd been very lively the whole way through the race. So that's just a little bit of insight into how I thought the event went, and how I tried to manipulate the game a little bit to get good positioning around those corners. It's the Invitational Series is tomorrow evening, so I've been invited to that, and hopefully trying to repeat with another third place. Well, thanks for watching, and look out for a future video.